The stars that dotted the night sky shone as if guiding the travelers below. There in the darkness, a boy stood alone. He had stopped at the top of a small cliff a short walk from a nearby peaceful mountain village. The night wind tousled his white hair as he stood motionless in front of a tomb. The wood and stone tombstone was a grave in name only. There were no remains buried beneath it. His only objective was to prove the loss of someone precious. The boy made no move to leave the place. Any questions or requests for help and advice addressed to the tombstone were simply returned as self-questioning. His only source of love and protection had been ripped away, and it would take time for him to answer his questions on his own. As he continued to stand there, blinking his rubelite eyes, the open night sky suspended above the mountains watched over him. Then, a shooting star. A bright flash appeared overhead. The boy looked up with a start and saw a blue glow of light. Dragging countless flickering particles in its wake, the dazzling pinprick streaked across the night sky, leaving a beautiful arc of light behind it. The moment was over in seconds. The blue star disappeared somewhere to the far west of the boy's village. Could that have been a god? The boy's intuition told him that he might have just seen a god descending from heaven to earth. But it would be half a year before he left for Labyrinth City. From Orario and received the answer to his question. It was a gentle moment. As the beasts and monsters dispersed, the blue shooting star that streaked across the sky slowed down as it approached the ground. As if intending to avoid a flashy and troublesome arrival, the shooting star, a blue sphere of light, hovered in the air before slowly coming to a soft landing. The faint outline of a person was visible for an instant before the ball of light shattered into 1,000 shining fragments. As soon as the flash disappeared from sight, a single girl was left in her place. Her beautiful features place her on the indistinct threshold between child and youth. Her black hair spread down her back and her body was small except for a surprisingly generous bust. The girl who had slipped from the night sky was standing barefoot on the grassy plain, on the earth. Ha! So this is the mortal plane. She spoke in a clear voice as she looked out into the open field with unearthly blue eyes. The edge of a forest was faintly visible in the distance. The smell of grass was in the air. An owl hooted in the distance. Her soft, round cheeks flushed from the flood of sensations that hit her at the same time, once. The girl, the goddess Hestia, pulled herself together and studied her surroundings for a short time before opening her arms and screaming. It really is different from the heavens. It's finally my turn to come down here. This is where my life in the mortal realm begins. Hestia's eyes sparkled as she looked up at the sky with a triumphant expression on her face. Eventually, she thought about examining herself. She restricted her arcanum so as not to break the rules that all deities agreed to follow during her time among mortals. Consequently, the body she currently inhabited bore none of the omnipotence of her celestial form. Her slender arms and legs were as weak as they looked, but Hestia regarded them with satisfaction. At first glance, she was very happy with the result. Now then. I shouldn't have landed too far. Hestia surveyed the area as a peaceful night breeze gently played with her black hair. She turned left and right to check out the moonlit and starlit plains, and the moment she looked back over her shoulder, she let out an ah as she saw her destination. Here it is. Almost too far away to be seen, a lone, pure white tower reached into the night sky. Still barefoot, Hestia set off across the plain, occasionally hitching a ride on passing merchants' carts as she headed straight for Labyrinth City Orario and its white tower. Even among mortals, her destiny was known as the center of the world and also held a special place in the hearts of the gods. The young goddess received instructions from a pious and friendly merchant, and at the break of dawn Hestia reached the walls that separated the city from the world beyond. Despite some confusion and bewilderment at the stern warnings from the guild gatekeepers that any gods or families planning to reside in Orario would not be able to leave the city as they pleased, Hestia completed the complicated entry procedures and finally passed through the northern gates. This inspection certainly took a long time. I don't know why there are so many rules just to enter the city and find a place to live, but I think that's all part of the charm of this world. Hestia smiled despite feeling besieged after the long assault on the gates. In contrast to the heavens, where everything was free and unrestricted, the mortal plane was refreshingly inconvenient and limiting. So this is Orario. I like the look of it, exclaimed Hestia once she had gone far enough to see all the buildings along the streets. Calling this city the center of the world wasn't just for show. The shops and streets were enough to impress even a goddess. Every direction was filled with structures large and small, shops and cobblestone streets, inns and steeples, plazas and spears, creating a unique atmosphere that could not be found in the heavens, even among the legendary pristine gardens and sparkling waterfalls that spilled from clouds. The sun had already risen high in the sky. Hestia reached the city walls early in the day, but the delay at the gates consumed most of the morning. Never feeling compelled to wear shoes, even in the sky, she let the soles of her feet tap against the cobblestones as she explored. Walking down one of Orario's main avenues, Hestia smiled as she took in the vibrant crowds of demi-humans and smiling children around her. Okay, I can't just walk around forever. First things first, it's time to find Hephaestus. I wonder where she is. Hestia was counting on her friend who came to Orario before her to provide some assistance in establishing a foothold in the city. She couldn't say exactly how many centuries had passed since her dear old friend said, "I think I'll try my luck in Orario," and she embarked on her own journey. Having no adequate knowledge of the city, or rather, no first-hand knowledge, the effectively ignorant Hestia was about to ask some passing children if they knew where to find Hephaestus, when... "Huh? Oh, come on, don't tell me this is really..." came a voice from behind her. Hestia turned to look over her shoulder only for her expression to instantly sour at the sight of her former enemy. Ugh. Loki. The red-haired, red-eyed goddess rolled her eyes at the sound of her name. Ugh, it really is itty-bitty. Just my luck. That's my talk, Hestia thought. Loki was a trickster with an unparalleled reputation for mischief in the heavens. More importantly, she had been a thorn in Hestia's side countless times. Looking at that hillbilly outfit you wore, I think you must have just gotten here, huh? Don't tell me you want to settle here in Orario, shorty. And if I go? He. You have no idea what you're getting into. Orario is not a place where a lazy, homely goddess like you can do that, you know. What did you just call me? You have courage. After enduring the patronizing suggestion that she not cut out of the skies, it was all Hestia could do to restrain herself from flying at Loki in anger, but then she stopped. A demi-human demurely beside Loki spoke in a hesitant voice. Loki? This goddess, is she? Don't worry, Lafia. This sad excuse for a goddess doesn't need an introduction. You can just call her short stuff or something. Loki's insult was irritating, but there was something else Hestia couldn't ignore. Besides the beautiful elf at Loki's side, there were other adorable girls, animals and humans alike. It cannot be. Hestia didn't do a good job of hiding her shock. Loki, those kids, are they? I finally realized, shrimp. That's right, they are all precious members of my beloved family. Family. Children of the mortal world who received the blessing of a god. Of a deity's followers, your faction. All of Loki's followers carried full bags, or they were in the middle of a shopping trip or returning home from one. The girls Loki proudly presented shrank, their expressions strange and worried, but the sheer size of Loki Familia on display shook Hestia to her core. This is Loki we're talking about. The walking incarnation of mischief and trouble. How did she get the children of the mortal realm, apparently, to worship and follow her? Well, we're talking about Loki, so it's not like any of his family could be good, began Hestia in an attempt to maintain what little was left of her composure. Ignorance really is its own punishment. Just so you know, out of all the families in the dungeon, we are counted among the top groups of adventurers in the entire city. What? Hestia's eyes widened as the smug Loki looked at her. Liar. There's no way a useless goddess like you has the strongest family. Hey! Who are you calling trash? If the failure of a goddess who chokes so much on her drink that she vomits is leading a top family, I think this world must be coming to an end. You big-tipped cub, why should I dash? This outbreak was just the latest round in an endless fight that had been a constant fixture in the skies.